The vast structure of Nexus Prime floated in the black void around a cold, dead star. Its outer shell was smooth silver metal that caught no light. Inside, huge halls and arenas stretched for kilometers. Every 100 years, the strongest fighters of the galaxy came here for the Galactic Combat Conclave. They did not come to make friends. They came to show power, make deals, and sometimes fight to the death in old rituals. This time the gathering felt the same at first. Ships of every shape arrived and docked in perfect order. From the sharp crystal fleets came the Vexari Shard Lords. Their bodies were living gemstone, clear and hard. A single strike from one of them could split a small moon into perfect pieces. They moved slowly on land, but their minds calculated angles faster than any computer. Next came the Krelith Swarm Kings. Each one looked like a walking pile of thick black tentacles, dozens of them, all moving at once. A single Krelith could split its mind into hundreds of small parts. In battle, the swarm became a cloud of death that covered ships and tore them apart from every side. No one had ever counted how many limbs one really had, because new ones grew when old ones were cut off. Then the Thraxon Berserkers landed. They stood over 4 meters tall. Their skin was thick gray hide that could take laser burns without bleeding. They did not need air for many hours. In the old wars, Thraxon warriors had walked on the surface of gas giants and come back alive. Their fists could crush starship hulls. When they spoke, the sound came deep and slow, like distant thunder. Last to arrive were the Zoran Void Dancers. They looked thin and fragile, almost like smoke caught in glass skin. But in zero gravity, they became impossible to follow. Their long curved blades moved so fast that light itself seemed to bend around them. A Zoran could dance through a storm of bullets and cut the weapons before the shooter blinked. They hated loud noise and bright lights. They preferred dark, silent space. All these champions walked into the main hall of Nexus Prime. The floor was black stone that showed stars below like a window to the deep void. Seats rose in circles around a central platform. No one sat close to anyone from another species. Old enemies glared across the gaps. Old allies nodded once and looked away. The conclave began with the usual words. A neutral machine voice read the rules in every known language at once. Trade routes were discussed. New mining worlds were divided. Border fights were settled with quick votes or promises of single combat later. Everything moved fast, because no one liked to stay long in one place. Then came the small item near the end of the list. Observation request from the new member species, humans. They ask to use Training Hall 7 for routine drills. They invite all delegates to watch if they wish. A low sound moved through the hall. It was not quite laughter, but close. The Vexari crystals made soft clicking noises, like glass tapping glass. The Krelith tentacles waved in lazy amusement. One Thraxon let out a deep snort that shook nearby seats. A Zoran tilted its head, and its blade arms gave a tiny shimmer of light. Humans. Most of the champions had heard the name only recently. A pirate fleet, large, cruel, and well-armed, had attacked several border colonies. Everyone expected the colonies to fall. Instead, a small group of human ships appeared. They fought dirty. They used old tricks, traps, and suicide runs. The pirates lost half their force in one standard day. The rest ran. After that fight, the humans asked for, and received, a seat at the conclave. No one took it seriously. They are small, one Vexari said in its clear, ringing voice. Soft skin. Short lives. They break easily. Prey that learn to bite, a Krelith added. Its many mouths spoke the words at the same time, making an ugly echo. We will watch them play fight. It will be quick entertainment. A Thraxon crossed its thick arms. I have seen their kind before on fringe worlds. They bleed too much. They die too fast. The Zoran said nothing. They simply watched with calm silver eyes. But even they felt a small spark of curiosity. The champions did not rush. They finished the last votes. Then, one by one, they moved to the upper galleries that looked down on Training Hall 7. The hall was not the grand arena with its bright lights and cheering crowds. It was a plain lower deck, gray walls, strong floor, basic gravity settings, no decorations. Large view screens opened along the walls, so everyone could see clearly. Some champions stayed in their private boxes. Others stood close to the transparent force field that separated the gallery from the training space. A few even brought drakes or small recording devices. They expected jokes. They expected to point and laugh. Down below, 30 humans walked into the hall. They wore simple black shorts and shirts. No bright colors, no symbols of rank, no armor, just bodies, some tall, some short, some thick with muscle, some lean. Men and women mixed together. Ages looked between 20 and 40 standard years. Nothing special. They carried bars, heavy plates, ropes, and large rubber balls. No fancy weapons, no glowing energy blades, just metal and rubber. One human, a woman with short dark hair, stepped forward. She clapped her hands once. The others formed lines without a word. They started. First came lifts from the ground. Heavy bars bent under the weight. The humans bent their knees, gripped the bars, and pulled. Their faces showed no anger or pride, just focus. Plates clanged when they dropped the bars after each lift. The sound echoed in the quiet hall. The gallery stayed silent at first. Then, a few soft laughs came. "Look at them strain," a Krelith said, "like young ones trying to impress." "They will tire soon," a Vexari answered. "Watch." But the humans did not stop. They moved to deep knee bends, with bars across their shoulders. Down slow. Up fast. Again. Again. Sweat started to appear on their skin. Breathing grew louder. Still no one shouted. No one cheered themselves. They just counted quietly or nodded to each other. After many sets, legs shook, faces turned red. One man dropped to one knee for a second. He stood again without help. Another took his place in line. The champions leaned closer to the screens. A Thraxon frowned. "They keep going after pain shows." "That is normal for young fighters," Azorin said softly. "But this is not a fight. This is normal for them." No one answered. The humans switched to jumps. They stepped onto high boxes, landed soft, jumped down, repeated. Then they picked up heavy round weights and swung them between their legs to chest height. The motion looked simple. The effort did not. Muscles stood out on arms and backs. Breathing turned sharp. Still no break. One human, a short man with scars on his arms, bent over and vomited onto the floor. No one laughed at him. A woman next to him handed him a bottle of water. He drank, wiped his mouth, and stepped back into line. The next set started right away. The laughter in the gallery stopped. The Vexari crystals dimmed a little, their inner light growing faint. The Krelith tentacles slowed their constant waving. The Thraxon crossed their arms tighter. The Zoran blades hung still. They watched, and watched, and the humans kept moving. No war cries, no speeches, no posing for cameras, just work. Hard, boring, endless work. One champion whispered, almost to himself, "This is only the warm-up?" No one laughed at the question. The gallery became very quiet. The humans kept moving without pause. The clank of metal bars hitting the floor echoed up to the gallery like steady drum beats. No one in the training hall looked up at the watchers. They did not care who saw them. They only cared about the next rep, the next set, the next breath. In the upper gallery, the champions stood closer to the force field now. The first laughs had died completely. A few still held their drinks, but the glasses stayed untouched. Eyes stayed locked on the scene below. The dark-haired woman who started the session called out numbers in a calm voice. 3 more sets. Full range. No cheating the bottom. Her words were not loud. They carried just enough to reach every human in the room. No one argued. No one rolled their eyes. They simply nodded and adjusted their grips. Next came the squats. The humans placed the heavy bars across their shoulders again. This time they went deeper. Thighs dropped until hamstrings touched calves. Hips stayed back. Backs stayed flat. Then they drove up hard through the heels. The bars bent slightly under the load. Plates rattled. Faces turned darker shades of red. Sweat rolled down necks and soaked shirts. A young Vexari Shardlord leaned forward until its crystal face almost touched the transparent wall. Its inner light flickered in short pulses. Their joints should fail, it said quietly. That angle puts torque no carbon frame can hold without cracking. Yet they repeat it, again, again. A nearby Krelith answered without looking away. Its many small mouths spoke in low, overlapping whispers. They do not stop when the body screams. They wait until the scream becomes quiet. Then they do more. One Thraxon berserker, a huge male with scars across his chest from old plasma burns, made a rough sound in his throat. It was not a laugh. It was closer to a growl. Pain does not make them quit. Pain makes them angry at themselves for feeling it. The Zorans stood a little apart from the others. Their thin bodies floated slightly above the floor because they disliked the artificial gravity. One of them tilted its head slowly. Its silver eyes followed a single human who was struggling. The man was shorter than most. His legs shook badly on the last rep. He paused at the top, breathing hard through his mouth. Then he lowered again. Slow, controlled, no collapse. When he stood up the final time, he racked the bar with a soft clang and stepped away without celebration. He simply walked to the water station, drank, and returned to line up for the next round. The Zoran spoke in its soft, almost musical voice. They do not fight the weakness. They accept it. Then they force it to leave. Below, the session changed again. The humans dropped the bars and picked up ropes. Thick ropes attached to heavy sleds loaded with metal plates. They gripped the ropes and pulled backward. Feet dug into the floor. Backs leaned. Legs drove. The sleds moved slowly at first, then faster. The humans walked backward the full length of the hall, 50 meters, then turned and pulled the sleds forward again. Muscles in their forearms stood out like thick cords. Shoulders rounded forward with effort. Breathing turned into sharp hisses. No one spoke in the gallery for a long time. A Krelith broke the silence. We fight in swarms. We overwhelm. We do not drag weights across floors like beasts of burden. Yet they do, a Vexari answered, and they do it every week. This is not special training. This is their normal. One of the Thraxon pointed with a thick finger. Look at that one. He indicated a woman near the back. She was tall and broad-shouldered. Her sled carried more weight than the others. She pulled it without stopping. Halfway across the hall, her foot slipped on a wet patch of sweat. She went down to one knee. The sled kept sliding forward for momentum. She caught herself, planted both feet, and pulled again. Harder. The sled moved. She finished the length, turned, and started back without a word. No curse, no complaint, just motion. The Thraxon lowered his hand slowly. I have seen warriors break under less. She did not even pause to feel sorry for herself. The humans finished the sled pulls. They lined up again. This time they carried heavy sandbags on their shoulders. They walked in circles around the hall. Some carried one bag, some carried 2 stacked. Some carried logs thicker than a man's thigh. The logs rested across wide shoulders. arms locked around them to keep them steady. Steps stayed even. No bouncing, no rushing. Sweat dripped onto the floor in small puddles. Shirts clung to skin. Hair stuck to foreheads. Breathing sounded rough now, like wind through broken metal. Still they carried. Azoran whispered, "They train the body to carry more than it wants. They train the mind to ignore the want." In the gallery, a small argument started among a group of Krelith. One said the humans were wasting energy on useless labor. Another said no, it was preparation. A third said nothing, it only watched. Then something happened that made the entire gallery go still. A human near the front, a man with gray and his short beard, set down his log. He walked to the side wall. He picked up a small black box. He pressed a button. Soft music started. Not loud war drums, not battle chants, just a steady beat with a simple guitar. The humans did not dance to it. They did not cheer. They simply matched their steps to the rhythm. The carries became smoother. Breathing found a pattern. Faces relaxed a fraction. Not because the work became easy. Because the rhythm helped them forget how hard it was. The Vexari crystals pulsed brighter for a moment, then dimmed again. "They use sound to dull pain," one said. "Not to boast, to endure." The carries ended. The humans moved to rings hanging from the ceiling. They jumped up, gripped the rings, and pulled their chins over the bars. Then down, then up. Slow negatives, fast pulls. Some did muscle-ups, explosive movements that took them from hang to support above the rings. Arms shook, shoulders burned. Still they went. One woman lost her grip on the last rep. She fell to the mat. She lay there for 3 seconds, breathing hard. Then she stood, shook her hands, jumped again, finished the set. No one helped her up. No one praised her. She simply did it because it was next. The gallery had grown completely quiet now. Even the small whispers stopped. They stood like statues, carved from different materials. Crystal, shadow, stone, smoke. A single Thraxon spoke. His voice was low, almost gentle for his kind. "They bleed, they hurt, they fall, and they rise." No one answered. Below, the humans finished the rings. The dark-haired woman clapped once more. Conditioning circuit. 3 rounds. No rest between stations. Go. They scattered to different spots. Some ran sprints across the hall. Some did push-ups until their chests touched the floor. Some flipped large tires, end over end. Some swung kettlebells in wide arcs. Some carried partners on their backs and walked. The hall filled with the sound of feet slapping floor, metal clanging, heavy breathing, and the occasional thud of a body hitting mat. No one quit early. No one looked at the watchers. They simply worked. In the gallery, a Vexari turned to leave, then stopped. It could not walk away yet. A Krelith's tentacles curled tight against its body. A sign of unease in their kind. The Thraxons stared with wide eyes. For the first time in many cycles, one of them felt something close to respect, and something closer to worry. The Zorin floated lower. Their blades remained sheathed. They all stayed. They watched. And the humans kept training, like it was nothing. The days stretched longer than anyone expected. The Galactic Combat Conclave was supposed to finish its business and send everyone home. Votes were done. Deals were sealed. Old grudges were either buried or set for later fights. Yet no one left. Ships stayed docked. Champions stayed in their boxes or wandered the upper galleries. They told their crews they had final matters to review. No one believed the excuse, but no one questioned it either. They all returned to Training Hall 7. The humans did not change their schedule. They arrived at the same hour every morning. They left at the same hour every evening. Between those hours they pushed their bodies in ways that made no sense to most watchers. The aliens had seen warriors train before. They had seen rage-fueled drills, elegant forms, brutal sparring. What they saw now was different. It was quiet. It was steady. It was endless. On the third day, the champions started keeping notes. Just small thoughts whispered between them, or scratched onto personal data pads. They needed to understand. A Vexari analyst stood near the front of the gallery. Its crystal surface reflected the lights below in tiny fractured rainbows. It spoke in its clear, bell-like tone. Their connective tissue should tear. See the torque on that lift. It pointed to a human doing heavy pulls from the floor. The bar was loaded so heavy, the knurling cut into palms. The human's back rounded slightly at the start, then locked straight as iron. Hips drove forward. The bar rose in a perfect line. At the top, the shoulders shrugged hard, then down, controlled, no bounce. Carbon frames crack under half that stress, the Vexari continued. Yet this one has done 30 reps, and will do 30 more tomorrow. A Krelith nearby answered. Its tentacles moved in slow, thoughtful waves. We adapt by splitting the mind. Each limb thinks for itself, but humans have one mind, one body. They force that single frame to carry burdens meant for many. Below, the humans had moved to grip work. Thick bars hung from chains. The humans jumped up and hung. Forearms swelled. Veins rose like rivers under skin. Some hung for minutes. Others added weight. Plates clipped to belts around their waists. One man hung until his hands opened against his will. He dropped, landed on his feet, shook out his arms, jumped again, hung longer. The Krelith's voices overlapped in quiet confusion. They train the weakest link, not the strongest. They make the grip match the body, not the other way around. A Thraxan berserker stood with arms folded so tight, the thick muscles bunched under his hide. He had not spoken much since the first day. Now he pointed with one thick finger. Look there. He indicated a corner of the hall. A human woman, no taller than most children of his kind, worked alone. She had wrapped her hands in white tape. She faced a heavy bag that hung from thick chains. She struck it with fists, elbows, knees. Each hit landed with a deep thud that carried up to the gallery. She did not punch like she was angry. She punched like she was measuring, testing, correcting. When sweat flew from her brow, she did not wipe it. She kept moving. The Thraxan spoke again. His voice was lower than usual. She bleeds. See the red on the tape. She keeps going. We bleed too, but we roar, we charge, we end it fast. She accepts it, like it is part of the day. The woman finished her round. She stepped back, breathing hard, blood mixed with sweat on her knuckles. She looked at her hands for 2 seconds. Then she wrapped fresh tape over the old. She started again. The Thraxan lowered his finger. For the first time in many years, he felt cold inside his chest. The Zoran watched from higher up. They disliked crowds, so they floated near the ceiling beams. One of them drifted lower now. Its blade arms stayed folded against its thin body. It spoke in the soft way that made listeners lean in. They move without grace, it said. Yet the movement works. No flourish, no art, only purpose. Below, a group of humans had started explosive drills. They loaded bars lightly. Then they pulled the bars from the floor to shoulders in one fast motion. A second later, they drove the bars overhead. The weights were not the heaviest they used, but the speed was shocking. Bodies snapped straight. Feet left the floor for a split second. Bars locked out above heads. Then down. Reset. Again. A Zoran tilted its head. In zero gravity, we dance through voids. We cut before the eye sees. They explode upward against gravity itself. Again and again. They train to fight gravity, not just enemies. The champions began to notice patterns. Humans did not train for one kind of fight. They trained for every kind. They jumped and ran to build speed. They carried loads to build endurance. They hung and gripped to build tenacity. They struck bags to build violence. And they did it all without rest days that anyone could see. When muscles tore, they taped them. When joints swelled, they moved anyway. When lungs burned, they breathed deeper. On the 5th day, something shifted in the gallery. A young Krelith, new to the conclave, spoke too loudly. This is madness. They destroy themselves for no battle. Why? An older Krelith turned, its tentacles curled in warning. They do not destroy, they rebuild. Every day stronger, every day more stubborn. This is not madness, this is preparation. The young one fell silent. No one else spoke for a long time. The humans had reached what they called Metcon, short for metabolic conditioning. They set up stations around the hall. They moved from one to the next without stopping. Drop and do push-ups until failure. Flip a tire 10 times. Swing a heavy kettlebell 50 times. Carry a partner across the hall and back. Then start again. Sweat flew like rain. Bodies hit the floor from exhaustion. Hands slipped on bars. Legs buckled. Yet the circuit kept moving. When one finished early, they jumped in to help the slower ones. They pushed sleds together. They spotted lifts. They shouted short words of count or encouragement. Not speeches, just numbers. 3 more. Halfway, you got it. No drama, no show. The gallery felt heavy now. Air seemed thicker. A Vexari whispered to no one in particular, "They do not train to win a fight. They train so losing is not an option." A Thraxon nodded once, slowly. On the 6th day, the humans brought out blunt weapons. Training blades made of dense plastic. Shock sticks set to low power. They paired up. They moved through drills. Strike, block, step, counter, again. Skin turned red from impacts. Some bled from split lips. They wiped blood with forearms and kept going. One pair fought on the ground. A larger man pinned a smaller woman. She bridged her hips, trapped an arm, rolled him, mounted him, dropped short elbows. He covered. She kept striking until the timer beeped. Then they stood, shook hands, switched roles. The Zoran watched without blinking. They embrace the ugly parts. We seek the perfect cut. They seek the effective one. Night cycle came. The lights in the hall dimmed slightly. The humans still worked. They cooled down with slow walks and stretches. Some sat and talked quietly. Others lay on their backs, staring at the ceiling. Breathing returned to normal. Then they packed gear, left in small groups. No fanfare. The gallery emptied slowly, but not completely. Some champions stayed. They sat in the dark. They replayed recordings on small screens. And again, one Thraxon remained standing at the force field, long after the others left. He stared at the empty hall. The mats still held sweat marks. The bars still stood in racks. The air still smelled of effort. He spoke to the silence. One word. Why? No answer came, but deep in his chest he knew something new. The humans were not preparing for war. They were preparing for anything. And that made them the most dangerous thing in the galaxy. The 7th day arrived like any other on Nexus Prime. The dead star outside gave no light. The artificial cycles inside the megastructure kept their steady rhythm. But inside Training Hall 7, something felt heavier. The humans arrived at the usual time. They wore the same plain clothes. They carried the same gear. Nothing looked different on the surface. The gallery, though, had changed. Fewer champions spoke now. Many had stopped pretending they came for other reasons. They simply appeared at the viewing walls each morning. Some stood alone. Some stood in small groups that did not mix species. The air felt thick with quiet. No more jokes. No more bets on how long the humans would last. only eyes, watching. The humans started with bodyweight work. No bars, no weights, just themselves against gravity. They dropped to the floor in perfect lines. Push-ups, slow down, explosive up, chest touched mat every time, elbows tucked, backs flat. When arms failed, they switched to knees without shame. Then, back to full. They did hundreds. No count shouted aloud. Each person tracked their own number in their head. After push-ups came grappling. They paired up on thick mats. No striking yet, just hands and bodies. One took the top position, the other worked from bottom. Hips bridged, arms trapped, rolls attempted, escapes practiced. Sweat made skin slick, grunts replaced words. When someone tapped from a tight hold, they slapped the mat twice. The partner released immediately. They stood, shook hands, switched roles. No anger, no gloating, just work. Up in the gallery, a Thraxon berserker stood so close to the force field, his breath fogged the surface. He had not moved for hours. His thick gray hide looked duller than usual. He watched a single pair. A small woman against a much larger man. She was pinned, his weight crushed down. She stayed calm. She waited. Then she exploded. Hips up, shoulder drive, arm trap. She rolled him, mounted his chest, dropped short, controlled strikes to his guard. He covered. She kept pressure. The timer beeped. They separated, smiled once, moved to new partners. The Thraxon whispered to himself. She gave up nothing, even under him. She waited, then took everything. His voice carried just enough for a nearby Zoran to hear. The thin being floated closer. Its silver eyes never left the mats. They train surrender as a weapon, the Zoran said softly. We flee bad positions. They turn them into victory. Below, the drills grew sharper. The humans picked up blunt training blades, hard plastic shaped like swords and knives. They moved through patterns first. Step, cut, block, reset. Then came live partners. Slow at first, then faster. Metal clacked against plastic. Feet shuffled, bodies twisted. A cut landed on a forearm. Red welts rose. The receiver did not stop. They countered, pressed, forced the attacker back. One man fought with two short blades. His movements looked simple. No spins, no flips, just direct lines. Thrust, slash, angle change. His partner blocked most, but not all. A light tap landed on the ribs. The partner winced, nodded. They reset, did it again. The Zoran blades shimmered once, a rare sign of interest. No beauty in it, one said. Only results. The gallery noticed something else. No one in the hall wore protective gear beyond thin gloves and mouthguards. Bruises bloomed purple on arms and legs. Lips split, eyes swelled. Blood appeared on mats from small cuts. The humans wiped it with towels, kept moving. No one called for medics. No one quit. A Krullet's tentacles hung limp. Usually they waved in constant motion. Now they stayed still. One of its many mouths spoke alone. We swarm to avoid pain. They walk into it. Every day. The session shifted to shock sticks. Low-power versions that buzzed on contact. Blue arcs jumped when they touched skin. The humans paired again. Stick in one hand, free hand to block or grab. They moved fast now. Sticks cracked together. Bodies dodged. When a stick landed, the receiver jerked but kept going. They absorbed, adjusted, struck back harder. One young human, a lean man with fresh scars on his knuckles, took a full charge to the side. His body locked for a second. He dropped to one knee. The partner stepped back, waited. The man breathed once, twice, stood, raised his stick, nodded. They continued. A Vexari crystal nearby pulsed dimly. Pain stops most beings. For them, it is only information. The gallery fell into deeper silence. No one left. No one spoke. They watched. The humans moved to ground and pound. One partner on back. The others straddled the chest. Fists dropped in controlled arcs. Not full power. Enough to teach. The bottom partner bridged, rolled, escaped, or took it and waited for openings. When roles switched, the new top person did the same. Methodical, patient, brutal in its honesty. A Thraxon female, scarred across one eye, finally broke the quiet. Her voice came rough and low. "This is not sport. This is rehearsal." She pointed to a corner, where a group rested between rounds. They sat cross-legged, breathed deep. Some closed eyes. Others stared at nothing. Faces calm, despite the damage on their bodies. One man had a black eye swelling shut. He smiled at something his partner said, then stood, walked back to the mat, ready again. The female Thraxon continued. "We fight when we must. They train as if the fight never ends." A Krelith answered, all its mouths at once, soft, overlapping. "They do not train to become strong. They train because weak is not allowed." The words hung. No one disagreed. The session reached its peak. The humans formed a large circle. One person stood in the center. The others took turns rushing. Single attacks. Double attacks. The center person defended, countered, survived. When they fell, they stood again. When they bled, they wiped it away. The circle kept turning. New center. Same rules. One woman took the middle. She was small, tired. Sweat soaked her shirt. The first attacker came fast. She slipped the grab, threw a knee, sent him back. Second attacker. She ducked, tripped, mounted. Third. She rolled away, stood. Fourth. She took a hit to the body, bent but did not break. Countered with an elbow. The attacker dropped. She stayed in the center, longer than most. When her turn ended, she walked out of the circle, breathing ragged, hands on knees. Then she straightened, joined the line, waited to rush someone else. The gallery could not look away. One by one the champions felt it. A cold understanding. This was not a peak effort. This was Tuesday. This was routine. This was what humans did to stay human. A Zoran spoke last, its voice almost too quiet to hear. They do not fear tomorrow. They prepare to meet it, and pay whatever price it asks. No one answered. The humans finished. They cooled down. Slow walks, stretches. Some laughed quietly at a missed move. Others sat in silence. Then they packed gear, left the hall. Lights dimmed behind them. The gallery stayed full. No one moved to leave. A single Thraxon berserker, the largest one, spoke into the dark. "This is how they prepare?" The question floated. No laughter followed. No boasts. Only silence. Absolute silence. The galaxy's strongest fighters stood together, watching an empty hall, feeling small for the first time in their long lives. And somewhere below, in the quiet corridors of Nexus Prime, the humans walked back to their quarters, tired, sore, satisfied, ready for tomorrow, like it was nothing. The conclave ended without warning. No final vote, no closing ceremony, no grand speeches from the champions. One morning the neutral machine voice announced that all scheduled business was complete. Delegates were free to depart at their convenience. The words echoed through empty halls. Few listened. Ships began to leave Nexus Prime that same day. Not in proud formation, not with banners or salutes. Quietly. One by one. Engines lit in the black void and carried their masters away. The silver shell of the megastructure grew emptier with every departure. The Vexari Shardlords were among the first to go. Their crystal ships moved with perfect precision. No wasted motion. Inside the lead vessel, the champions sat in silence. Their inner lights burned low and steady. One Shardlord stared at a small recording crystal. It played the same clip over and over. A human lifting a bar from the floor, shoulders shrugging, bar rising to lockout, then down again. No celebration. Just the lift. Again. The Shard Lord dimmed further. It spoke once. They rebuild what breaks. We shatter what stands in our way. Different paths. No one answered. The recording looped. The Krellith Swarm Kings left next. Their black tentacle ships folded into tight spheres and vanished into jump space. Inside, the swarm minds argued in overlapping whispers. One voice rose above the rest. We overwhelm, they endure. Overwhelm fails against endurance. Another voice answered. We must avoid direct contact. Let others test them first. The swarm quieted. Agreement spread through every limb. No more boasts about tearing human fleets apart. Only caution. The Thraxon Berserkers delayed longest. Their massive hulls stayed docked for 3 extra cycles. The champions gathered in their central chamber. Thick hides pressed close. Deep voices rumbled low. One berserker, the scarred female who had spoken in the gallery, stood in the middle. I have walked gas giant storms. I have crushed hulls with bare hands. I have never felt small, until now. She looked at each face. No one looked away. They do not train for glory, she continued. They train for survival. Every day, every breath. They pay in blood and pain before the enemy even arrives. A younger berserker spoke. We charge, we break, we win or die. They refuse to break. The female nodded once. That refusal is their weapon. We cannot match it, not yet. The Thraxon ships left last. Engines burned slow and heavy, like they carried more than metal and warriors. The Zoran Void Dancers slipped away in the dark hours. Their ships were almost invisible against the void. Inside, the thin beings floated in zero gravity. Blades rested against glass skin. One Zoran spoke in its musical whisper. They fight gravity itself, every lift, every jump, every carry. We dance around it. They conquer it. Another answered, Beauty is fragile. Their ugliness is unbreakable. The group fell silent. Blades dimmed. No more words needed. Back on the frontier worlds, messages began to spread. Private channels, encrypted lines, no official statements, just quiet warnings passed from champion to champion. Avoid humans when possible. Do not provoke. Do not test. Observe from distance. The pirate coalitions that once raided human borders received the same message. Many canceled raids. Some vanished entirely. Others moved to softer targets. In the Conclave archives, now mostly empty, a single file remained active. It was not hidden. Anyone with access could view it. The file held hours of footage from Training Hall 7. No commentary, no edits, just raw recordings. Some champions watched them in secret, late at night on distant ships. They studied the lifts, the carries, the grapples, the blood, the calm faces after pain. They watched because they could not stop. They watched because something inside them needed to understand. Others deleted the files, erased them completely, tried to forget the sight of small, soft bodies doing impossible things without complaint. But forgetting did not work. On a small blue world far from Nexus Prime, the training never stopped. In cities and towns, in garages with cracked concrete floors, in fields under open sky, in basements lit by single bulbs, humans gathered. They loaded bars, they pulled ropes, they swung weights, they ran until lungs burned, they grappled until skin tore, they rose when they fell. No crowds cheered, no cameras recorded for glory, just people, doing what needed doing. A woman in a small gym finished her last set of heavy squats. Legs shook, sweat dripped. She racked the bar. walked to the water fountain, drank, wiped her face, then loaded the bar again. Same weight, same reps, same focus. Across the planet, a man carried sandbags up a hill, one after another. Rain fell, mud stuck to boots. He slipped once, caught himself, kept climbing. In another place a group circled a mat, one in the center. Others rushed, defend, counter, survive, laugh when it ended, then do it again. They did not know the galaxy watched them once. They did not know the strongest fighters in 1,000 systems now spoke their name in whispers. They did not know entire fleets changed course to avoid their space. They only knew tomorrow might ask everything. So they trained today, like it was nothing. On Nexus Prime, the last ship left. The megastructure floated silent around its dead star. Galleries dark. Training Hall 7 stood unused. Mats clean. Bars racked. No sweat marks. No blunt spots. Just waiting. Somewhere in the quiet, a maintenance drone moved through the gallery. It paused at the force field. Small lights scanned the empty hall below. No humans came, but the drone recorded the silence. And in the vast dark between stars, the message continued to spread. Humans trained like it was nothing, and that nothing terrified the galaxy more than any weapon ever built. Because when the day came, and it always came, they would be ready. Not angry, not proud, just ready. And the galaxy understood something new. The strongest fighters were not the ones who roared loudest. They were the ones who stayed quiet, who worked when no one watched, who paid the price every single day. So when the price arrived, they could pay it without blinking, and keep moving. The champions who once stood tall now moved carefully around human space. They traded, they talked, they smiled when needed. But they never challenged, never tested, never laughed again at the small, soft primates. Because they had seen, they had watched, and they would never forget.